You speak their name as if it were merely another rank, another order in the labyrinth of this Imperium. It is not. They are not the Astartes. They are not the Imperial Guard writ large, nor a political tool clad in gold. They are not brothers. They are not sons. They are custodians, and that word means only one thing. They are mine. From the moment I laid hand to Jean Forge, they were never meant to be a legion, not designed for war in the manner of the Great Crusade. Their numbers were never meant to swell. Their purpose was never conquest. They are my guardians, my body, my blade, my will, clad in flesh that does not break. Not one of them is born as the Astartes are. They are wrought, singular, each one a project, each a triumph, each a sacrifice of resources that could have birthed 100 battle brothers. To call them the 10,000 is imprecise. That number is ceremonial. There have never been 10,000 custodians standing watch at once. Not in the Unification Wars, not during the Great Crusade, not even at the height of the Throne World's security, because I did not need numbers, I needed certainty. Each is a monument to exactitude. Where the Astartes are cast in the mold of their Primarch, the Custodes are bespoke, custom, built as weapons without peer and men without equal. No two are alike, no two were trained the same, no two were meant to be the same. Their armor is not mass-produced. Their war gear is not standard issue. Every plate, every component of their arms is as refined and as unique as they are. That is why they gleam so brightly. Not for spectacle, for precision. Their war plate is gold, not because they seek glory. It is gold because gold resists corrosion. And so do they. They have walked beside me since the earliest days of Terra's rebirth. Not as warriors, no. As shadows, as observers, as hunters. When my gene labs were yet hidden in the Himalasian Massif, they guarded the inner thresholds. When I walked among the warlords, parleying or annihilating as needed, they were already at my side. They have always known more than they are permitted to speak. And they are permitted to speak very, very little. Even among themselves, silence is common. They do not share stories. They do not trade victories. They remember everything and boast of nothing. Because the Custodes understand what the Imperium forgets. Their failure cannot be allowed. They are not allowed to fall. They are not allowed to falter. They are not allowed the luxury of death in battle, because the cost of their death is me, and so they remain. The last line, the last breath, the last movement before blade meets throat. If they act, it is because all other defenses have failed. If they speak, it is because all other warnings have gone unheeded. And if they die, then Terra dies. Do not confuse them with the warriors of my legions. The legions Astartes, for all their might, were tools of war. I made them to seize the stars. The custodians? I made them to end war, to destroy whatever dared reach for the throne, to be the answer to questions no one had the courage to ask. They do not march under banners. They do not answer to generals. They answer only to me. And even now, that bond has not broken. You call them the Adeptus Custodes, because the High Lords of Terra decreed it so, once I no longer sat among them. They named them Adeptus, like any other servant of the Imperium. They gave them titles, roles, even ranks, as if one might command a being made in my image. They call their leader Captain General, as if he were merely a commander. Let me tell you who he truly is. Valdor, Constantine Valdor. His name is older than your language, older than your faith, older than the throne. when the Primarchs were still phantoms in the warp, when the Great Crusade was only theory, when I walked Terra not as a god, but as a king-slayer. He walked beside me, and he never erred. He was not my son, he was something else, a proof of concept, a prototype of what could be if the raw material was perfect and the vision uncompromising. He was never just a warrior. He was a measure of my intent, of my reach, of my patience. And when the time came, when even I began to sense the fractures forming within the dream, he was the one I trusted with truth. More than Malcador, more than the Primarchs, more, even in some ways, than myself. He is gone now, vanished into shadow after the heresy. Some say he died in battle. Some say he turned away in disillusionment. Some whisper he went into the black to finish what I started. I do not answer those questions, because if Valdor yet lives, then I would know. And if he does not, then there is no need for you to know. In his absence, others have taken his place. A succession of captains general, loyal, vigilant, dedicated. But never Valdor. And yet, the custodians endure. Through fire and treachery, through the betrayal of the Primarchs and the collapse of the Webway project, through the burning of Prospero and the siege of Terra, they endured. And after that, they changed. Not in essence, but in function. The unseen watchers became the silent guardians. They ceased to walk the stars. They turned inward. They ringed the palace in steel and oath and silence. They became what I needed them to be: warden and witness, executioner and sentinel. They did not wail at the fall of the dream. They did not break beneath the weight of loss. They did not retreat. Where others failed me, they endured. They stood, and they still stand. At the foot of the throne, at the edge of the abyss, waiting, watching. There are those within the Imperium who say the custodians turned inward after the heresy, that they grew stagnant, complacent, that for 10,000 years they guarded only the past. They say this because they do not understand what the Custodes guard. They do not guard a man, not merely my body, not even my life. They guard meaning, continuity. They guard the only thing that holds the Imperium together. If I were to fall, if I were to vanish from the throne, and the golden light went out, the Imperium would not merely collapse, it would be invaded. The webway breach beneath the palace would open fully. Terra would fall. The Astronomicon would go dark. Warp storms would bloom across the void, and within weeks, perhaps days, the heart of the Imperium would be devoured. No war fleet, no chapter, no saint could stop it. Because what I hold back is not merely rebellion, it is oblivion. The custodians know this. They have always known this. And so they wait, not because they are passive, but because they are ready. It is no simple task to stand vigil for 10,000 years, to walk the same marble halls, to test the same palace walls, to descend into the subvaults, to patrol the black cells, to be the only ones who see what lies beneath the imperial palace, and to say nothing. No mortal man could endure such silence. But the Custodes are not mortals. They are perpetual initiates. Their training never ends. Their testing never ceases. They hone their minds and their blades not for warfare, but for certainty. Each one is trained in thousands of disciplines. Tactical, psychological, psychic, martial, linguistic, socio-political. They can detect lies by heartbeat, predict actions by breath. They do not act until all variables are known. But once they do, there is no hesitation. This is why, when Guilliman returned, it was they who confronted him first. Even a Primarch must prove himself to them. Because unlike the Astartes, the custodians do not bow to blood. They bow only to truth. And they do not forget what the Primarchs became. The Custodes were present at Prospero. They saw Magnus in his hubris shatter the veil. They witnessed Lorgar's false piety. They knew the moment Horus turned. They stood beside me at Nicaea. They stood against me once, when my judgment was compromised, and they were right to do so. There is no loyalty in silence. There is no service in blind obedience. The custodians do not obey. They interpret. They embody. Each custodian must determine for himself whether an order is just. And that judgment must be correct, because if it is not, they are terminated. There are no second chances. There is no forgiveness. There is only precision. You do not understand what it means to forge men like this. You think the cost is merely immaterial: gene, stock, alloy, labor, number. The true cost is potential. Every custodian I created could have fathered a legion, could have led a fleet, could have ruled a world. Instead, they were made to protect one chair, because that chair is all that matters. You may think they are relics, artifacts of an age now dead. You are wrong. The Inquisition fears the custodians. The ecclesiarchy dares not command them. Even Guilliman, clad in the armor of his ancient power, treads carefully around them. Because all know this truth. If the custodians ever decided the Imperium had fallen too far, if they chose to act, no force could stop them. Not the chapters, not the saints, not the legions of Mars, no one. Because the custodes are not bound to the Imperium. They are bound to me. And I did not build them to protect a bureaucracy. I did not build them to serve priests or protocols. I built them to protect the future. Whatever form it may take, however much blood it may cost. They are not my hounds. They are not my angels. They are my judgment. And if they ever march again as they did during the Great Crusade, it will not be for banners or pride or conquest. It will be because the throne demands it, because I have commanded it. And they will not fail. They never have. They never will. Because they are custodians. And I am still here.